What's up, everybody? It's Daniel. No, it's Dee. Daniel, Chris.
There he is.
You'll get that right eventually.
One of these days I'm going to get to it. But welcome to your favorite cross-country brunch podcast, where we can't really talk about brunch right now because everything is canceled or shut down or whatever it is because of COVID-19. What's going on, guys? What's up?
What's up, man?
How we living? We're trying to survive through everything that's happening. It's a shame we can't have our normal. I'd love to be sitting at the table with you guys, just chit chat and brunch style. But
what I would do for just a solid brunch hang right now, man.
Like, I would do anything right now to just be at a brunch table with you guys actually talking about normal things going on. But we can't, because ever since we were like, well, let's bring this podcast back, it's been COVID-19 talk. Of course, we got some Jordan talk in there too. But the reason why we all were obsessed with watching a documentary about stuff that happened 25 years ago is because we're stuck inside. So it's been weird. But today on the episode, of course, I mean, we're going to be talking about everything that's been going on in the country with the death of George Floyd, riots, protests, which happened in both of our cities. And we just got a lot of things on the menu that we'll definitely talk, and we'll definitely get off our chests as well. So guys, what has it been like for you guys? And because I'm in LA, you guys are in Pittsburgh. When the George Floyd death, everybody saw the video of the police officer kneeling on him, and which is just absolutely disgusting. I mean, when you saw the video, like, what kind of went through your head when you saw it?
I mean, I think what went through everybody else's head, or at least most people's head, I mean, it was just awful. You don't want to see that happen to anybody, but when it's the seemingly same situation that keeps happening just in different parts of the country year after year, man, it's pretty sickening.
Yeah, it was that just like, you've got to be kidding me again moment, right? Where it's like you think that progress can be made, and you don't really know if it has, and you I guess you hope for that and you try to strive for that, but then you see something like that and it's just like it blows your mind. But it's almost, I don't know what blows my mind more, that how sickening it was, or that it's consistently happening again and again. And it's like unfortunate that he's another name on the list, right? Who's we gonna be talking about next? There's always that name that we try and remember. So it's just sickening and mind boggling, and you just can't believe how backwards things are going. And this year I have had it with 2020. I'm about ready to, say cookies and just take a long nap for the rest of the year. But yeah, this has just been, sad and, horrendous all at the same time.
No, I'm with you. It's the thing that was so alarming about the video for me was that, like, it just felt like he meant to do it. Where, like, a lot of these other situations, which have been so many other situations have been terrible. They've been absolutely awful. Don't get me wrong. But it's like, there's still in some situations that little bit of gray area where you're like, man, it might be a little hard to be a cop, or it was a split second thing. But this was like 8 minutes, 46 seconds of a guy just while being filmed on while seeing cell phone cameras around.
Yeah,
he's like, you're looking at people seeing you do this, and you decide that you're gonna keep kneeling on this dude while he is like pleading to you. You have him in handcuffs. He's already on the ground. What are you doing? And that's why, like, really remind me of some of the things like my parents talked to me about when it talks about like these things that happened in the 50s and 60s and stuff. And that's why this was so chilling to me. And then I start thinking about 50s and 60s and these situations happening. And a lot of people have been talking about the riots that happened in 92 because of Rodney King, because I'm in LA. So like, that's what everything, everyone's talking about. Because the last time they had to call the National Guard in was in 92. So when I look at those situations and I'm like, is this just going to happen? This is going to happen again. It's going to happen next. When's it going to happen? Because I'm just kind of, I don't know. I'm like just dejected. I'm like, I'm depressed. I am not a loss for words. I feel like I have a lot of words. It's just that I don't have any words of like hope for anything, you know? It's like everybody's doing the hashtag thing and that's great. But I'm like, is it ever going to change? Because it's just been a problem that's been going on for years and years and years and years. And when you look at stuff with Minneapolis, where George Floyd was killed, was this like point in Minneapolis where they basically made it awkward since 1910 for Black people to go. So this is an area where it's already weird for Black people to be in Minneapolis, and they made it, and then he got killed in this point. And it's, I don't know. It's just awful.
Yeah, and like you said, Dee, with him, standing there knowing that he's being filmed, there are more than 3 trillion reasons why this type of stuff shouldn't ever happen again anymore. Historically, it's happened and we know it has. In this day and age, it still shouldn't. But you would think with with social media and people with camera phones everywhere, it's only exposing it more. It's not slowing it down. Like, how is that not slowed this thing down at all? It's exposing it more. We're just seeing more of it, right? And it's becoming way more known nationally than maybe locally.
Didn't Will Smith say something about that? He's like, the racism isn't happening. Something to the effect of racism isn't happening more. We're just seeing it now, or something like that.
Yeah, it's like these situations happen more. And yeah, like you said, like you would think that it would stop people from doing stuff. You're even seeing that in the riots, and we'll talk about that. It's like you're still seeing awful police activity during these. And there are people doing stupid things, but like there's also really peaceful people out there trying to get the word out, trying to draw attention to something, and they're still getting maced and kicked and shoved. And everybody's got a camera, everybody's got a camera. I don't understand that, but it also goes to the problem is that the police feel like it's like they don't police themselves. And that's what they have to do. They police themselves because like we put them in a position to protect and serve communities. And sometimes those things get, and I'm not a police officer, but sometimes those things, they get serious, and sometimes accidents do happen. But then you're like, how much of this is an accident? How much of this is just you taking advantage of the fact that you are kind of invincible in a lot of these places, So it's, I don't know. It all sucks, man. It all really sucks, and it's just all super depressing. I hate it.
Well,
go ahead, Chris.
Well, so I just wanted to. So you talked, Dee, about how, obviously this has been going on for years and years and years, and I looked in preparing to record this episode. I looked back just to the more recent history of this type of stuff happening, because if you go back to when we started this podcast, we've been doing this podcast for 4 or 5 years, right?
Yeah.
We had a 3-year hiatus, but so I don't know if it counts or not.
It's a long tenure. It all counts.
Listen, if the NBA and NHL can say that like they're still going to count the season after a 6-month break, all right, yeah. I guess we can do it too.
That's a great point. But I remembered us doing an episode in the past and having it center around some type of discussion like this. So I went back through our feed to try and figure out what that episode was and what we were focusing on. And in 2016, we did an episode, and the title of it was Let's Have a Conversation. And in that episode, it wasn't necessarily directly targeted at this situation of police brutality and a police officer murdering somebody. That was part of the discussion, along with, at that time, we were kind of in a stretch where there was a series of mass shootings and different things like that. But we kind of mixed it all together to talk about it. And as I listened to it, I wrote down some quotes okay, from all three of us. And I want to read through these because I feel like we're still saying the same thing today, and that is really disappointing. But we said things like Dee Dee said, at some point it has to stop. Dan said, it feels like we're going backwards. Dee Dee said, on social media all the time, we need to have a conversation and we're just not having it. I said, we don't seem to have conversations on social media. We just seem to shout at each other. And Dee Dee said, you don't have to listen to people's opinions anymore. Those quotes still apply to exactly what's happening today. And I think like all of us have been monitoring this situation and this series of events that have happened since his death. And it's just really, it's upsetting and discouraging and depressing that it doesn't feel like we've grown or progressed in any way since the last time this happened, or the time before that, or the time before that. It just seems to be the same situation happening over and over again. And I don't understand why, if horrific things happen, how as a society you can just let history continue to repeat itself.
Yeah, I think that's kind of amazing, Chris, that you brought those quotes from that episode. I remember that episode. I was thinking of the title as soon as you bringing that up, that we had a similar episode back years ago. But it's amazing how all those quotes still apply to today. Feels like we're even going even further backwards. You would hope that progress doesn't happen necessarily overnight, especially something that's racial injustice, which has been literally history in the making. It is history. It's been there forever. You don't expect it to change overnight, especially with how history has played itself out. But I mean, freaking come on, man. And it's unbelievable. You're right. It's discouraging. That's the exact word that I would use, that we're still nowhere closer to where we were supposed to be, where we should be, than we were 4 years ago, let alone 40 years ago. You know what I mean? It's just like, how is it, still taking this long for, society to wake up and realize what's happening, and people need to change. You talk about social media, and it's just people usually just yelling at each other. It gets to a point where, talk is only so much. You can say so much and you can support so much, but people are taking action now. Some for the good, some for the bad. And you wonder, like, what is going to be the action that ignites the change, the big change, right? That's going to, so we can have a different conversation 4 years from now or 20 years from now and see some sort of progress. You like to have that sort of hope, but it's in moments like these where it's like, it's hard to find hope like that.
Yeah. And the main problem with it is, like, I feel like everyone is kind of in agreement that this was awful, that this police officer was terrible.
Yeah.
Everyone's in agreement of that,
right?
Which is something that we really haven't had when these situations happen. So that is something that you would think would, like, springboard us to actually having a conversation. But then once you say what the actual problem is, and that is police brutality, that's whenever we start to divide. That's when people start to throw in statistics that are like, oh, well, this many black people, more white people get killed by the police than black people. I'm like, well, there's more of you, so that makes sense.
Right.
And then it's like, well, then this thing happened to this white person, so why weren't you, there were no protests then? I'm like, well, the big difference is that when I see George Floyd, I see myself. I've been in situations where I've been stopped by the police, where I've been thrown on the hood of a car because they said my car smelled like something, and cops were, and I think I said this story 4 years ago. That really annoys me because I just started telling that, and I was like, I'm pretty sure I told this story on the podcast 4 years ago. But anyways, said my car smelled like something, threw me on the hood of a car, and they were kind of like laughing about it. It was like, that's what they felt like doing. And there's nothing I can do there. I'm happy I'm alive. I'm happy there was no accident. Like they said that, they thought a taser was a gun. They thought a gun was a taser, or a taser was a gun, or something stupid happened like that. And then I'm gone. So when I see George Floyd, and when lots of Black people see George Floyd, they don't just think about the person getting killed. They think about it happening to them. And like when a white person gets killed by the cops, you guys don't think that way. You guys don't feel that way. That's not the relationship you have with the police. And that's a simple conversation, in my opinion, that people can have. Like, why is it that you feel this way about the police and that we don't? But then once you throw social media into it, and then someone says their dad was a cop or something, then it turns into this whole thing. And I just don't understand why we can't get past that, because the problem is police brutality. Like, that's why people are rioting. That's why people are looting. That's why people are angry. It's because of police brutality, and it's something that people don't think will ever get fixed because of the way that, police are ingrained in our society. I don't know what we're supposed to do with that if we never can have that conversation. We have to skate around saying the police, because once you say the police, then every conversation ends.
Yeah, and Didi, I mean, you're right. You essentially said the same thing 4 years ago. You talked about the conversation that we need to have, and how some people will say Black Lives Matter, and then some other people will shout back at them, well, Blue Lives Matter. And neither group is ever asking each other what that means to them and trying to gain a greater appreciation or understanding or context to get to a point where we're not shouting at each other. Like, from seeing that happen, I think you should be able to understand that not every cop is a bad cop, but understand that there are a lot of issues with police and police brutality, especially for Black people. And, it's, you say Black Lives Matter, and then somebody says all lives matter. Well, nobody, I've thought about this a lot lately, that especially preparing for this conversation, because I have never had to go to kind of relate to what you said, Didi. I have never had any period in my life where I've had to try and where I've had to question my worth. You know what I mean? And from the interviews I watch and I listen to, I feel like that is really, a worry for other people. That is something that I can't understand. So rather than just, scoff at what somebody else is saying that's different than me, I feel like I need to listen to them and try and understand, put yourself in somebody else's shoes to try and understand them before you cast judgments and make these concrete opinions and just shout at each other. I don't know why that's so hard.
I think that's the biggest thing, is I don't think people are willing to listen to each other. They won't put themselves in somebody else's shoes. You're right. It shouldn't be that difficult to listen to somebody. And hopefully conversations like this can spur other people to listen to other people and think about that other perspective, not just thinking about yourselves. Like you said, Chris, with, Black Lives Matter, all lives matter. Well, all lives can't matter until Black Lives Matter more than they are right now. So they're both right, but you have to be able to understand each perspective and each person. And no, you can't literally, embrace that feeling. I've never gone through it, something like the story that Didi was telling there either. But we as a society have to understand how those people feel in those type of situations, regardless of how you feel one way or the other. Especially, like you said, if people start shouting on social media, then it becomes like political, and this is not, what the source of where this is not what it's about. But it always turns that way. So, opening up your ears instead of your freaking mouth is what more people need to do. And it's just, I think, a lot of it has to do with the way people communicate nowadays, which is unfortunate. I don't know how you get people to understand that better. Like I said, hopefully, forums like this and many, many more people that do this professionally for a living. Not that we don't. I mean, naturally, this is professionally produced. The people who do this on the daily, those type of forums that people will listen. Don't be one of those people that sees your favorite musician or favorite athlete on social media say something or take a stand on something and then just if it's something you don't like, you just abandon them. I'm seeing way too much of that. That's ridiculous, man. These people, they're speaking, they're allowed to speak what's on their mind, and you need to just be willing to listen and not even listen to their perspective, but the perspective that they're talking about these people, about these Black people. So it's, again, discouraging that not even people that, you can look up to that are trying to say what we're saying here, that you think that, it's loyal fans or whatever it may be, still getting backlash for saying the right things. So, I don't know how it can get better.
I don't get how it's hard to understand that, like, the beliefs and the values and the experiences that I have had are distinctly different than somebody else's.
Yeah. It's that simple.
Yeah.
You have to understand that, like, where I grew up, where Dan grew up, we grew up in a bubble. Nothing bad ever happened, and we understand that. And so we're not going. We would be crazy to think that the life experiences that we have had are common across the board. No, everybody experiences different things. Everybody comes from different places, different backgrounds, and that shapes who you are. So you have to understand that each person is distinctly different. I feel stupid that I'm mapping this out. Like, each person is distinctly different, and you can't just project your own values and feelings on other people. That's not how it works.
Yeah, and that's what I hate about all these conversations. Like, we can have a conversation about where you grew up and where I grew up. I can say what's different about me growing up in West Virginia, you guys growing up in a city. We can talk about these things so much. Somebody can be from anywhere. We can talk about those different things that make us different. But once we say anything about you being white, me being Black, or this person being Asian or Hispanic, we all have different stories. People always want to change that to, oh, I don't see color. I'm like, my God, if I hear another person say I don't see color and actually think that works, like, I'm gonna lose my mind. It's 2020. Like, the world is beautiful. Like, the world is beautiful. We are all different colors, and it is awesome, right? It is great. That does not make. I don't understand why that makes it so difficult. It's like, you're not a bad person because you said Black, because you said white. You're not a terrible person. It's just that, like, with that, because of America, and if you want to go all the way back to, like, slavery, yeah, things weren't made to be easy for me. They weren't. And it's been a fight to now to get things to go the way you want them to, and they're still not perfect. But, like, you have to know that. And everybody knows that. But they don't want to have the conversation about it. They just want to try to get rid of the conversation. Like, no, don't worry about that. Or it's 2020. Like, no, we had Obama as a president. We have no racism here. It's all good. It's annoying that we cannot have this conversation. And we're more connected than we ever have been. But you mentioned social media, and with social media, it's weird when you have these platforms and there's, like, bots. You guys seen any of the new reports about, like, most of, like, Twitter and Facebook is, like, bots now?
No.
It's crazy.
It's like a ridiculous amount of bots now on Twitter and on Facebook. And it makes me wonder why I'm still there, why we're still on these things. Because the best part about it, Twitter for sure, early Twitter, was that it felt like you were actually talking to people. Like, when I said something about an Eminem album, right? And I would say something, like, I actually felt like I had a person I was talking to on the other end. But now it's like, if you say something about, and I'm using Eminem for a purpose, I'm using his name for a reason. Now, when you say
is it
Eminem,
because we brought the podcast back because I was watching 8 Mile one night? Is that why?
Oh my God. No, it's because when you say Eminem, it's all of a sudden you get flooded with all of these fake accounts.
Yeah.
That were, like, made in April 2020 or whatever. And you're just like, wait, huh? How do you have 13,000 tweets and you just started Twitter 2 days ago? What? you kidding? Like, you're just, because that's what I look at when I see these, and I get these responses. I'm like, this can't be real. And it's not. And when you do the same thing, if you tweet anything, you say Trump, it's the same thing. You get flooded with so many different bots. It's not even people, you know? And I felt like it was so much better before that you could have these conversations. Because back in, 09, 10, 11, 12, like, we were talking a lot about gay rights. And there were certain things that we were saying that I didn't know was that was a slur. I didn't know was affecting people or hurting people as much as I thought it was, or women. And then you realize that because people were having these conversations, we were able to do that then. And now we can't have any conversations at all. And we're all so connected. And that's, and so it goes to, all lives matter, blue lives matter, these lives matter. And you just get all completely off. Everybody just hits a hashtag and then you just forget it.
Yeah. Something about the social media behavior that has kind of driven me crazy is that we went from talking about the incident to projecting on each other really, really quickly.
Yeah.
And we almost within a span of 24 to 48 hours got into this, I can't call it a conversation, but we got into this situation where if you weren't tweeting a certain hashtag or making a statement or something like that, then people were saying that means you're racist, So we went so far from like talking about it and maybe you wanted to understand it to, if you don't understand it, you're this thing now. And then of course that's going to make people not want to have a conversation anymore.
Yeah, that's a good point, Chris. It's crazy how it's come to that, and social media has driven this. We have a forum where we can have greater conversations, and now it's made the conversation even that much harder. And what you guys touched on there that is, really hit with me is it's not acknowledging that you're going to completely and fully, feel what other people feel and know what other people go through. You're never going to do that. You could be told stories day after day after day, and you're still never going to feel the same thing. We're never going to feel the same thing. It's just understanding it and acknowledging it, that it's different, right? You don't have to, go through the same person or go through the same thing that a different person goes through than you, but you have to just be able to understand it and acknowledge it and be open to it. And that changes the game completely. And the fact that people aren't even doing that is, what's frustrating, because we have these channels to have these conversations, and, social media is driving it the other way. And that's, it's where it's like we're at this dead end. Social media is just growing and growing and growing. What Twitter was like you were mentioning, Dee, early stages of Twitter, how that's changed, how powerful Instagram has become, how Facebook is just not remotely even close to what that used to be. Change the damn name. That's just like
Dee has the plan. Dee has known for years, and I mean, you've been right, man. There needs to be Facebook.old.
Oh my God, dude, the great old people migration of Facebook in like 2013 or something, it ruined that whole platform. Because once that happened, it was like people started to take Facebook serious. Because anybody who is of a certain age, like we're all in our like mid 30s or close to mid 30s. I don't want to throw you guys in there with me yet, but we're all there. And it's like, if you were in that age group, you remember the change that happened to that platform. And it was like, it went from everybody on TV telling you social media was a joke, it was stupid, basically the way that people talk about like TikTok right now. It's like they say it's stupid and it's just pointless and kids are dumb and whatever, but then all of a sudden they got on it, and then it became serious, and then it became news, and it became everything, and then they are the ones that have all been just look really, really stupid. They've made, because I don't know about you guys, but my parents are like the main like target for people to post a meme that is like nowhere close to the truth. And they aren't the only people, but my goodness, when I see it, I'm just like, you guys, because old people don't use Google at all. They don't see something and think to themselves, oh, that statistic looks a little weird. I'm going to check this one out. No. They just post it and it doesn't matter. But yeah, God, Facebook, that's a terrible place. But speaking of Facebook being a terrible place, and you saying, and you guys both saying about the conversations going from you are this, goes from everybody coming together to all of a sudden you are this, the riots and the protests and all of that. I'll start because there's, protests going on both of our cities, but in LA, it was, here's the backstory. They've been protesting in LA for weeks, right? Weeks before this even happened, because there was a situation that happened in, I believe, Inglewood with a cop and a guy who was handcuffed and just kind of like excessively beaten. And it was caught on camera from like across the street. So people have been protesting in LA for a while, and it was kind of bubbling over. And then we got the riots that we had because of George Floyd, because it was just like enough is enough. And with the riots came everyone projecting their feelings on the stores being looted and riots happening. And I'm like, no one likes riots. No one wants unrest in their city. No one wants these city curfews that we have in LA, which some areas is 2:00, some are like the whole city 6:00. Nobody wants that. But like, when people are so mad, when people are so upset and just honestly hopeless and desperate, that's what happens. Because if they've tried to peacefully protest, they've tried to talk to you at council meetings, they've tried to vote for the right person, nothing happened. And then you see something like that happen so awful in the middle of the street, you're like, okay, we have no other choice. So I'm going to just screw it. I'm just going to go just fuck shit up. That's just what I'm going to do. And that's what I see when I see the riots, is just people who are desperate and angry and mad, because I'm not out there outside in the riots. No, I was not. But I am just as mad as anyone else. And it's like, I understand it. It sucks. It sucks seeing stores get burned. It sucks seeing things get burned. It sucks seeing, businesses and broken glass everywhere. It sucks. But it's like, on the other end, I get it, because I feel like our police failed us, and that's where we're at. And that's why that's what I see when I see the riots going on. I mean, what are you guys seeing from what's happening with you guys in Pittsburgh?
I think you make a good point there with it, Dee. And the other element of that is, I think when people hear about a riot, everything associated with the group that was there is now just the worst people on the planet. They're terrorizing our own country. But as we're finding out in Pittsburgh, it's not those people. People are protesting peacefully, and there are a group or an individual people that are there rogue just to start shit, just because they know it's an opportunity where if they start it, other people can jump in, or it's an area for them to kind of like hide amongst the crowd. So that's what, is also frustrating. And you feel bad for these people that are doing the right thing, protesting peacefully. And then you have some jagoff, to put it in our Pittsburgh terms, that is just there to start a riot because that's what they like to do. They're not there for the right reason. And then it makes the whole thing, look like a sham, and that people just got violent for no reason. So to your point, understanding why people are so mad and getting so violent. And then the other side of it is, it's not only those people that are doing it. It's just there's just assholes out there that enjoy starting these things up just to start something up. The actual terrorism within our own country are people that do shit like that, not doing it for any, real reason other than just to start a riot.
Yeah, that stuff's been weird. That's like the weird part of all this, like some people being planned, because hey, they're not saying there's not, regular people out there who were just angry and they're like, I'm going to throw this brick through a window because I'm going to get mine and I am just mad at everything. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but this whole planned stuff is weird. Like people who were, it's basically proven a lot of these places, they're saying that the people they're arresting are not even from there. Like they're not even from close to there. It's like they came in to do this one purpose, and that was just to like screw up a city. That stuff's just weird. I can't even understand that.
Shout out to Dee Dee's daughter for protesting the brunch breakdown just now. That was
She
great.
just wanted to get a word in. She just said, she wanted to have the conversation, fellas.
All of a sudden I hear Siobhan say, "Oh no," and then all of a sudden here she comes. Yeah,
Yeah, she had something to say, man.
Yeah, she definitely had a lot to say. Good God.
Yeah, like I think you can separate. You can have two kind of trains of thought on the riot topic, and it's okay because Dee Dee, what you said, I feel like I don't understand, and that's a word I've actually struggled with a lot lately because I don't understand what any of this is like, from the perspective of an African American person, obviously, but it makes sense. I guess that's the best way to say it. It makes sense being that angry and trying to get people's attention while at the same time, obviously, you don't have to condone it. Like nobody wants communities destroyed. So you can have, I say this all the time with politics. Like, you don't have to pick a side and then just do all the shit that side says, like,
Yeah.
You can have two different trains of thought on the same topic and kind of weigh both ends of it. And that's kind of how I feel with the riots. Now, I have less of that perspective for what has been happening in our city in Pittsburgh, because it does seem that all of that is just like the kid that started the riot in Pittsburgh a couple days ago. It's like this 20-year-old white kid, and his parents took him to the cops to turn himself in.
That was hilarious.
Dude,
I gotta say,
get real.
That video of him going in with his parents is the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. Because
like he got sent to the principal's office.
Yeah, like that's what it looked like. And I hope that this kid ends up doing jail time, because it's absolutely ridiculous if you're the one that starts the unrest and you have to take your parents have to take you. I can tell you right now, Pam and Dan Dudley would not have taken me to the police station. There's no way in hell my parents, if they saw me, because his picture was out for maybe 2 days, but like at least a day. That picture of him was out there.
Yeah,
and I'm like, my parents saw that, dude. My parents would have like, you're driving yourself to the police station. I am not about to go on camera and even be near you for this. Like this, it made me laugh seeing it with his parents. But man, like, there's no way. My parents would just disown me. It would have been out. Deservedly so.
I think they said the kid was from Shaler. It's like, dude, you're from Shaler. You spray painted Mario Lemieux's statue. Like, where do you think you're going to live?
Right.
What do you think you're going to do? Like, that's never going to end up well for you.
It is crazy. Because there's a story that none of the Kobe memorials or anything, like there's so many paintings of Kobe Bryant and him and Gigi, none of them touched. Because they have more sense than that Bartles kid that got in trouble in Pittsburgh. Because I don't know why you thought that was a good idea. And I know sports are a very minuscule thing when it comes to these serious issues, but just letting you know. If somebody would have done something to any Kobe memorial here, it would have just been over for them. Like, I don't know if they would have made it to the police station.
No, Laker Nation would have found them first before the police did. There's no doubt.
1,000%.
No doubt.
1,000%.
Dee Dee, you mentioned sports, and something I've been wondering about is your opinion on organizations and athletes and their responsibility or not to make a statement about this, because that has seemed to really be at the forefront of a lot of social media chatter the last 2 or 3 days.
If you want to make a statement, make one. But if you don't have anything to say, don't say it. That's my whole thing. And that goes to organizations too. Because I feel like a couple teams or a couple like companies, they put out statements. So then it felt like it was almost a statement off. Like it was like a competition for who was going to have the next statement, how fast you were going to put one out there. And then it was people yelling, saying, why isn't this company put out a statement yet? Why isn't this team put out a statement yet? I'm like, if you don't have anything to say that is useful, and I thought most of them were worthless. I really did. I thought most of them were super stupid and kind of put out there because they felt like they had to. And I don't need that. I don't like that. I'd rather you figure something out and then go to action instead of making a statement that says, we have plans to do something. Well, what are the plans? Like, we have plans to change things. Well, what are your plans? What are you going to do? How are you going to work with these institutions to make things better? I don't, what are you going to do? I'd rather you wait because this isn't going anywhere. We don't have to do everything right now. Like, that's another thing. It's like, we don't have, like, we can talk about this again on another podcast. We don't have to do everything today. We're not going to save the world today. We're not going to change the police force. It's not going to happen today or next year or in 5 years. It's not going to happen. But like, we can make change, but these people with all this money, with all this influence, they can actually change things if they want to say something. But I've been kind of mocking a lot of them on Twitter for not saying the police, because that's what this is about. So if you don't have anything to say about that, then I don't really want to hear it. And with athletes, there's controversy about the Sidney Crosby, about Evander Kane saying that like white athletes need to say something, and he's right about that. But like, if you don't have anything to say, I wouldn't make a fool of myself trying to say something, you know, like Tom Brady has spoken out, like, you know, other white athletes have said stuff, and that's cool. But if you don't have anything to say, I'm not going to force you to say anything. But it is true, though, that like white people listen to white athletes more than they listen to black athletes. So because it's very easy for people to say, well, that's your issue or that's your community. It's like, we all live in these same cities together. Like, this is not just, it's everybody's issue. It's not just our issue. People will say, no, that's your protest, you know? But if somebody that looks like you says something, then you're more likely to listen. So I got why Evander Kane said that, but like, I didn't understand the whole everyone getting so mad about it thing. Like, I was just, who cares? All right, he's not going to say anything. That's fine. Yeah. Evander Kane didn't say, I'm going to put a gun to Sidney Crosby's head next time I see him if he doesn't talk. He didn't say that. Like,
well, I feel like it's gotten to a, so I agree with you that I like a lot of them just seem generic and like, we're doing it because this team did it or this player did it, so I'm doing, you know, and so many people and organizations have done it that now there's a lot of people saying, well, why isn't this guy done it? Why isn't this guy done it? Why? And like, to the point that we're wondering like why FCS college football coaches haven't done. Like, at what point does the level of you matter start and end? Because
yeah.
But yeah, I was curious of your thoughts on that, because they don't make too much of a difference to me. I know what PR is.
Exactly. That's one thing all three of us know. And that's why it's so, maybe it's not bullshit to other people, but to me, like us three in this room who all work PR, marketing, done broadcasts, all this stuff, like, I know what you're doing. Like, I know that like in some of these huge companies, there are a bunch of people reading this thing. There are lawyers writing these things to make sure that you don't offend this group and you don't do this. I know how this stuff works. Yeah. Like, so that's another reason why I just think it's even more like BS than anything. But one good thing about this, though, I will say, is that the difference between the way that like college and pro teams and coaches are dealing with this, like how differently they are doing it than when like Kaepernick was kneeling, is a big difference. And I think it has everything to do with the players, because they have grown up with this, especially the college coaches, because these kids have grown up in this decade where we've been in our 20s in that last decade. Like, they were growing up and going through high school when Trayvon Martin happened. So all the way up whenever when it was controversial for the Heat to wear the I Can't Breathe shirts and stuff, like that was when they were in like middle school, some of them, that those kids actually matters to them. That's why the first statements you saw was like Trevor Lawrence, who's if you don't know who Trevor Lawrence is, he's the best quarterback in college football. And he said something, a week before his coach did, about the situation. So I think that is a good thing, but I don't know if it's BS or not. But I do think that like a lot of coaches, a lot of teams, they're under pressure because these kids are like, we've had it. We're not dealing with it. And if anything, it's been a good sign with the statements. It's that, knowing that like, things are different right now. You can't get away with what you got away with the last time.
Yeah, that's it's really interesting perspective the way that you stated that there, because I've had those conversations as recent as today where it's, saying something, and are you really saying something for the right reason, and are you just playing copycat because other people are doing it, seems like it's the right thing to do? Are you literally, if the conversation is just around the Instagram statement you have to make, then you're doing it wrong. Stop what you're doing. Delete it. Okay? That's all the conversation you're having. If that's what it's about, your caption, forget it. It's not worth your time. It's not worth anybody else's time for what you're doing. So it's hard to filter out which companies are doing the right thing and having those right conversations, because, like you said, the three of us especially know we can sniff out the BS a lot, and there's a lot of it out there. So, hopefully, those ones that stick out for the right reasons.
Dan, that's perfectly said, man.
Yeah.
That was awesome, because
that was perfect.
Like, I feel like a lot of people did what today was it the hashtag, it was Blackout Tuesday?
Yeah, Blackout Tuesday.
I feel like a lot of people, I mean, obviously a lot of people did that, but like, what did you do other than that today? Because like, I had a conversation with my wife about the things that we can actually do. Like, are there things that we can support financially? Are there ways that we can donate our time? Like, what actions can we take outside of you tweeting 140 characters? That's so much more important than jumping on the bandwagon. Like, maybe you don't need to put anything out there today, but reflect and talk with your loved ones and find out what they think about this, and see if there are ways that you can actually contribute to making this better in the future.
Yeah, and there aren't, it's, you just have to make sure you're actually doing something past today, because the protests are going to end. The rioting and stuff is going to stop.
Mm-hmm.
And then what are we going to do? Because everything's fresh in our minds right now. It just happened a week ago. Not like this is all in our minds right now. It's like, what are we going to do after that? That's why the statements and Blackout Tuesday is great, because I think it's a great way to show that, yes, you support, like, you are on the right side of history. I get it. But like, if you're putting up the Blackout Tuesday today, but then when your uncle makes a racist joke in front of your kid at the barbecue, like, are you going to say something? Or are you just going to stand there? Because we all know that happens,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's a racist joke, a homophobic joke, whatever it is, like, are you going to let that happen? Because that's how racism's taught. That's how being prejudiced, that's how it's taught. It's taught because you're not stopping it in front of people who are learning it. We may know better, but like, the generation underneath us may not. And you have to show them that. And I feel like that's one of the more important things, is just being like, I have to be proactive in my life and show my friends that this is the way you got to do things. And if we don't do that, then we're going to be back here talking like this in 10 years when the Brunch Breakdown gets back together.
After our next hiatus. Yeah, man. Oh, is she here to protest again?
She's here to protest again.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
no.
Yeah.
Preach.
Keep going.
There she is.
There
Hi.
she is.
There she is.
Hi,
Say
Saoirse.
hi. Oh, you had all the things to say back there. Now you don't want to say anything.
This
Oh,
is your
she's
time.
on Twitter.
It was your spotlight.
Good God.
So, Didi, what you said about like, that's how people, or like, that's how racism is taught. I thought about that a lot this week too. My mom would always tell me when I was a kid growing up, you want to treat other people the way that you want to be treated. And like, you just assume when your parents tell you those things. I know we were all raised in a similar fashion to be good people. You just assume everybody's raised that way. But then like, when you see this stuff happen and the conversations go in these bizarre ways where people are shouting at each other, you realize that like, no, not all parents tell their kids that. Not all parents raise their kids to try and have empathy and be kind and put themselves in the shoes of other people. It's kind of mind blowing.
It really is. I don't know. But that's why you have to learn. That's why you have to listen. That's why you have to understand. And even if you don't understand it, like you guys have both mentioned that, like even if you don't understand it, like you can show empathy. Because when I see people like doing something, I don't care what it is, I ask why. I'm like, why? Okay, why are you doing that? Why do you feel that way? Because if I don't feel this way, I want to know why you feel that way, you know? But for some reason, when it comes to these, but I guess it's because they're uncomfortable. These are uncomfortable conversations to have, and people don't like to have them. And I say you start having uncomfortable conversations, whether they're with your kid, because people rip Nickelodeon today because they did the 8 minutes and 40-second, like just went off air, just went black for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. And I think they put up like a thing saying something about George Floyd, and parents were mad about it, like on social media. But then a lot of people were applauding it too, because they were able to have the conversation. And I mean, if you're mad about it, like you got to have the conversation with your kid, you know? I don't know what you're afraid of. Treat people the way they want to be treated. That's it. It's that simple, you know? And that's what that police officer did not do to George Floyd, and what many other police officers don't do every single day.
Yeah, I think it's time to start being comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
As if quarantine didn't like teach us that enough. You know, be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Like this is the real version of it to really make you wake up to understand, you know, what is uncomfortable, and to again have the empathy, have the ability to understand that it's different, that it's just different, and that things are not changing and moving into the future the way that they really should have a long time ago. But even now, again, it's still not happening, and it's time to make the change.
Yes, it's time to have those uncomfortable conversations. Like I can remember, like Chris, you were married. Dan, you're going to be close to this situation, so I hope you don't have to have this uncomfortable conversation soon. But it just reminds me of whenever like Siobhan's like, we've been together for this long. What's the deal? That's an uncomfortable conversation for me. I'm like, whoa, hold on. I guess that means I gotta go buy a ring. I guess that means we gotta go get married. I don't know. I don't know. Oh my God, uncomfortable conversation. You know, all of a sudden the clock's ticking. Dan, that's gonna be you soon.
Yeah, thanks.
That's a great episode idea.
If there wasn't enough of you soon. Yeah, if there wasn't enough of a spark there for that conversation to happen already, this episode sure shit is gonna, you know, fuel that fire anymore. So
just letting you know. Uncomfortable conversations. Like that's when I think of uncomfortable conversations. I think of that one was like, whoa, that's like a punch in the face. All right, okay, all right. Okay. I guess,
man, right. The level of serious goes. It's not even like a step up. It's like 12 stories up. Like you went from a townhouse to a skyscraper. Let's go,
dude. It's the truth. It's so crazy how that goes, because you're literally like, everything's great. It's not like you're not saying that you don't love this person.
Fine. Why do you?
You're like, I love you. You're great. We live together. You're awesome. Like we go on vacations. My family loves you too. And then she's like, but I have a ring on my finger. You're like, oh, okay. But that's an example of an uncomfortable conversation. But you should have those conversations and ask your friends. Reach out to strangers. Ask them questions. Don't be condescending about it. Don't throw things in their face that's going to make them get on the defensive end. You can literally ask people why. That's it. And I think the better way to do that is to get into go into somebody's like DMs. I don't think it's the best way to do it. It's definitely not the best way to do it on Facebook, because anybody will just jump in and comment, and then it turns into like a who likes what better, and all those things mess up conversation just by random people being able to come in and say, oh yeah, that person burned this person. And that might have been your goal. That's not even what you meant to do. But that's why, you know, these conversations can happen. I need them to happen. We all need them to happen. I just wish we could force people to do it. I wish we could force people to get in a room together and hash things out, and we just all be better.
Get together over brunch. Have a conversation.
Thank you.
Whenever and wherever you can. There's your start. That's your start point.
Steel City Dan bringing it back around. Look at this.
There it is. My goodness. brunch. That's it. Get to brunch, whether it's over Zoom, with your friends, have those conversations. My goodness. Well, before we get out of here, there's one thing we did want to do to kind of lighten the mood a little bit, because I've been super pissed all week, and I love listening to music. We all do. And we can't wait to talk about music, but this kind of, we felt like it would just be inappropriate to start talking about all the great music we've been listening to and just act like nothing happened. But I want to talk about the songs that piss you off. What songs do you listen to when you're pissed off? When you are just like, you need to just rage out. And one for me is for sure Kanye and Jay-Z's Who Gonna Stop Me. It is literally the song that gets me more hyped than any song, and it makes me just want to punch walls and just get out all of my frustration. And I love listening to that song when I'm just angry. What's some of the songs when you guys are blowing steam? What is it?
Go ahead, Dan.
Chris, what era gets you going? Gets you all fired up?
My answer is not going to be as interesting as yours. So I want to hear from you and DD first.
Okay. My default angry music, I'll just give you the album. It's White Noise from Paris. Shocking. I know. But that's the album that made me fall in love with the band. And there are just some tracks on there. Fire is fire. And that gets you fired up. It's something that, the beat drives the whole time, and it lets me, feel that type of anger that just gets me through the emotions in music form. And that whole album, I'd say half that album could be easily, just angry music. White Noise from Paris. So that's always one I can rely on for that type of emotion.
Dee, do you have any other ones that you wanted to highlight?
Oh, wow. Yours is this good? You're letting me go?
No, it's not. I mean, I can go.
Yours is this good?
So
it better be.
No, it's you're not going to like it. Music is actually not something I normally turn to when I'm angry, to be honest with you. I'm kind of more of like a silence type of person when it comes to me being angry. I kind of prefer to remove myself from a situation and just try and collect my thoughts. And sometimes that could even involve like going for a run without headphones or working out without music, just to try and like zone back in, collect my thoughts, and just figure out a better way to get over whatever that anger is. Yes, Dan.
Sounds like you're about to make a 21 Pilots reference of sometimes quiet is violent. Is that what you're going to, is that what you're about to tell me?
Sure. Yeah. I don't listen to that song, but yeah.
That is some serious like serial killer energy right there, by the way. I don't know. Like that like was scaring me when you were talking about it. I just listen to nothing.
Yeah.
It's just silence. I just scream. I hear my own screams.
I stare at myself in the mirror. I stare at myself through the mirror.
I'm downstairs in my gym and I'm just no. I'm listening to the beat of my sweat hit the floor. Just
it's not that intense. Come on. Anyone in my family or my wife Katie will tell you, like, if I'm pissed off or if I'm angry, I'm very quiet. There's not a lot happening. So unfortunately, I don't have a lot of music suggestions or recommendations for being angry. I actually kind of go the opposite direction.
I hear you.
Interesting.
I do. No, that's good. I wasn't ready for that one. I like it.
No, I thought you were going to throw us off with something that's like you try to like spin the mood by going like upbeat with some
Yeah, it's the Beauty and the Beast soundtrack. Actually, is what I go to when it's Beauty and the Beast. Yeah, that's what it is.
Oh, boys. Well, we're at the end of the episode. So, Dan, tell everybody where they can find the Brunch Breakdown and send us out of here in the only way that Steel City knows how.
The only way I know how. Yeah, time to close it. Bring in the closer. We're growing. We're expanding. We've been away for a couple of years, but we're up to date with where you receive your podcasts now. They don't all go through SoundCloud and Stitcher. Do people still use those things? Let me know, please. But we are available on SoundCloud, on iTunes. We are on Google Podcasts, and we are on Spotify now.
Yes.
Pandora is coming soon if you listen to your podcast on Pandora, so we're not too far from there. And all your other regular podcasting apps, if you still use Stitcher, SoundCloud, anything else. But we're on the big ones. We're on the main ones again. Tweet us at The Brunch Breakdown if there's some source that you get your podcast at and you don't see us just by searching The Brunch Breakdown. You'll recognize that logo anywhere. Chris.
And now we will hopefully consistently be putting these video of these podcasts on YouTube.
Yes.
There you go. Yes.
It's exciting.
YouTube as well. We're everywhere.
I love it. Dude, we're everywhere. Brunch Breakdown 2.0. I love it.
We're catching up. We were gone for a couple of years, but, we're checking all the boxes now.
Well, this was a good conversation, fellas. I'm happy we had it. Hopefully we don't have to have it in another 4 years, but if we do, we'll be here and have the same conversation with your friends. Ask them the same questions. Literally, remake the Brunch Breakdown. It'll make your relationship better. I love that we did this. So,
Perfect.
Guys,
well done.
Until next time, when we talk about music, for sure. We're going to do it this time, I promise.
Definitely.
I'll see you at the table. Brunch Breakdown out.